Welcome to the informative channel. Today we will cover the topic: the rise of Islam in Bhutan. Bhutan, how a minority faith is growing quietly. Bhutan, a tiny Himalayan kingdom tucked between two Asian giants, India and China, has long captivated the world's attention not for its size, economic power, or military strength, but for its deliberate focus on happiness, environmental conservation, cultural preservation, and spiritual depth. The Buddhist-majority nation has famously adopted gross national happiness, GNH, as a guiding development philosophy and remains deeply connected to its religious and cultural traditions. Yet, behind the image of temples perched on misty cliffs, fluttering prayer flags, and monks walking in crimson robes, Bhutan is not immune to the currents of global change. One of the most subtle yet significant transformations occurring within the kingdom is the quiet but steady growth of Islam, a religion that, until recently, had almost no visible presence in Bhutan. The emergence of this faith within Bhutan's religious landscape presents a rich and complex story of migration, identity, tolerance, spiritual seeking, and the challenges of modern pluralism. Historical and religious context of Bhutan. To understand how Islam is emerging within Bhutan, one must first appreciate the deeply entrenched religious identity of the country. Bhutan is officially a Vajrayana Buddhist kingdom. Buddhism was introduced to Bhutan in the 7th century, but it became the dominant spiritual force in the 8th century, particularly through the teachings of Padmasambhava, Guru Rinpoche, who is credited with firmly establishing Tantric Buddhism in the region. Over centuries, Buddhism became inextricably linked with Bhutanese culture, governance, art, and national identity. Monasteries serve not only as spiritual centers but also as schools, administrative hubs, and symbols of national pride. Bhutan's dual system of governance, established in the 17th century by Shabdrung Ngawang Namgyal, melds religious and secular authority. Even today, the Je Khenpo, or chief abbot of the central monastic body, holds immense influence in national affairs. This entrenched Buddhist identity has historically meant that other religions had little space to flourish openly within Bhutan. The country has always maintained a sense of cautious insulation, limiting foreign influence, media, and even tourism until recent decades to preserve its unique heritage. For most of its modern history, Bhutan's population has been officially classified as overwhelmingly Buddhist, with a small Hindu minority primarily in the southern regions. Christianity and other religions have had negligible visibility and limited recognition. Early traces of Islam, almost non-existent. Islam's historical connection to Bhutan is virtually non-existent, unlike in neighboring India or Bangladesh, where Islam arrived via traders, missionaries, Sufis, or conquest as early as the 7th century. Bhutan remained largely untouched by Muslim influence for most of its history. There are no records of Islamic empires penetrating the region, and no mosques or Islamic schools existed in Bhutan for centuries. However, Bhutan's geographic position, bordering Indian states such as Assam, West Bengal, and Arunachal Pradesh, meant that Muslims existed just beyond its frontiers. The plains of Bengal and Assam, historically rich in Islamic culture, came to host vibrant Muslim communities over time. But strict controls over border movement, particularly under Bhutan's traditional isolationist policies, meant that even cross-border religious interaction was limited. Migration and the seeds of Islamic presence. It was not until the latter part of the 20th century that Islam began to enter Bhutan in any significant way, and even then, it was not through missionary activity or formal conversions. Instead, it came quietly, through labor migration and trade. As Bhutan opened up in the 1960s and 1970s to development assistance, especially under Indian cooperation programs, a significant number of laborers from India began arriving to work on infrastructure projects, roads, bridges, and government buildings. Among these workers were Muslims from Bihar, Uttar Pradesh, West Bengal, and Assam. These laborers were temporary residents, often housed in designated camps, and had no legal status to settle permanently. Nonetheless, over decades, a small number chose to stay behind or returned seasonally, building informal connections with Bhutanese communities. This economic migration planted the first seeds of an Islamic presence in the country. In urban areas such as Phuentsholing, Samdrup Jonka, and Gelifu, border towns near India, tiny pockets of Muslim families began to emerge, often working as traders, tailors, or in the informal economy. Still, this presence was largely invisible. Muslims had no mosques, no official religious status, and few organizational structures. Religious practices were confined to private homes, and community gatherings were discreet. The changing landscape, urbanization, globalization, and youth. In recent years, several factors have quietly altered the religious dynamics in Bhutan, setting the stage for the growth of Islam in more visible forms. One of the most important is urbanization. As Bhutan modernizes, more Bhutanese are moving to towns and cities for education and employment. This urban shift has created spaces for interaction with outsiders, including Muslim migrants and traders. Globalization and digital connectivity have also played a transformative role. Young Bhutanese now have unprecedented access to information about other cultures and religions through social media, YouTube, online forums, and educational exchanges. Islam, like other global religions, has become more visible, even to those in a remote Buddhist kingdom. Some Bhutanese, particularly youth disenchanted with materialism or searching for deeper meaning, have begun exploring religions outside the traditional Buddhist or Hindu fold. While conversion is rare and socially sensitive, it is not unheard of. In a few documented cases, Bhutanese citizens, often those studying or working abroad, have encountered Islam in places like India, the Middle East, or Malaysia and returned home with a newfound faith. These individuals often practice discreetly, sometimes without the knowledge of their extended families. Some Bhutanese converts are drawn by Islam's emphasis on monotheism, discipline, moral clarity, or its global sense of brotherhood. Others are influenced through personal relationships, such as marrying a Muslim partner or living in Muslim-majority areas abroad. Thanks for watching the video.